Among my kind, there exists a word, vorith. Your language does not translate it well. The closest approximation would be this: the precise moment a civilization finally breaks. Every species reaches it. Eventually, inevitably, the Quillari reached it after 3,000 years of uninterrupted war. The Dravosi reached it the morning their sun began to dim. The Halvari, who carved their history into stone and sang it into mountains, reached it on the day they ran out of songs. We have watched them all. We have recorded them all. And with clinical satisfaction, we have confirmed a universal truth. Everything ends, which is why, when we discovered humanity, my senior colleague Drath addressed the council with absolute confidence and declared, "They will be easy to understand." I documented that statement personally. It remains archived. I intend to read it aloud at his funeral, assuming he ever gathers the courage to schedule one. First contact began the way it always does. Quiet, measured, controlled. A surveillance drone positioned above a human region called, and I am still evaluating the logic behind this. New Jersey. Drath selected it based on predictive models. Dense population, he said. Elevated stress indicators. We will observe their structural fracture point. He tapped his 3 upper fingers together. Among our kind, that gesture signals calm anticipation. The comfort of inevitability. The first human we focused on was female. Mira Solon, age 42. Occupation, middle school science teacher. At the moment of first observation, she stood before 23 juvenile humans holding a fragment of mineral chalk, explaining infinity. You must understand something. My species maintains 17 distinct mathematical disciplines dedicated solely to infinity. Our greatest scholars debated for 4 centuries whether infinity could belong to a single number or whether it existed beyond ownership entirely. The debate concluded in what history now calls the theorem riots of Quillari Prime. 2 fractured moons, thousands displaced, a permanent ban on theoretical mathematics during evening meals. This human, Mira Solon, drew a single line on a board. It just keeps going, she said. Forever. And the strange part? Forever doesn't scare us. Forever is kind of the point. Drath leaned closer to the display. What does that mean? I did not respond. A young male human raised his hand. His hair color defied our planetary vocabulary. Miss Solon, he asked, if the universe ends, does forever end with it? Mira paused, looked upward, tapped the chalk against her palm 3 times. Then she smiled. No, she said, because we were here, and that cannot be undone. Silence filled the classroom. And our ship. Drath turned toward me slowly. Translate that again. I have translated it 4 times, I replied. It remains unchanged. That is not a scientific answer. No, I agreed. It is not. Our database at that time described humans as follows. Average lifespan, 70 to 90 local years. Biologically fragile. Emotionally reactive. Prone to crying at organized sound patterns they call music. Documented tendency to approach danger while audibly stating, what could possibly go wrong? They have also invented more than 400 preparation methods for a single grain called rice. I verified the number myself. The dedication borders on strategic obsession. They were not classified as philosophers. They were categorized as mid-tier biological organisms located in a moderately unremarkable galaxy. File status: observe and dismiss. Label color: green. Green means predictable. I asked Drath if we should reconsider the classification. He declined. He was incorrect, because the following day, we tracked another human. Kale, age 67, retired engineer. He spent his days constructing a wooden boat. Alone, in his backyard. He had been building it for 11 years. His residential location was 400 kilometers from the nearest ocean. Neighbors had asked, repeatedly and publicly, where he intended to sail it. One younger neighbor, Juno, finally approached him directly. Kale set down his hammer, examined the incomplete hull, sun-bleached, landlocked, entirely impractical, and said without hesitation, I will get there eventually. Drath did not speak for an extended duration. Then, In a tone I had never heard from him before, he asked, "What is wrong with them?" And I answered with complete sincerity, "I do not know." That uncertainty, that single destabilizing absence of explanation, marked the beginning of our problem. We had a protocol for this. Of course we did. We have a protocol for everything. There's a protocol for first contact, a protocol for civilizational collapse, a protocol for what to do if a species invents faster-than-light travel before inventing indoor plumbing. That last one exists solely because of the Drevenoi, and no one discusses the Drevenoi anymore. The protocol for behaviorally inconsistent species was clear. Observe longer. Collect more data. Do not, under any circumstances, allow personal emotional response to contaminate scientific assessment. Drath violated that protocol on day 9. He had been observing a human named Bodo, age 29, street musician, location, Lisbon. Bodo played an instrument constructed from hollow wood and 6 metal strings. He played in the rain. No one stopped. His collection jar, cracked glass, decorated with a hand-drawn sun, contained exactly 3 coins by late afternoon. The rain had soaked through his jacket. His shoes emitted a rhythmic sound our translators labeled a very sad squeak. And yet, he was smiling, not performing happiness, not signaling resilience to an audience. There was no audience. This was a smile directed at nothing, at the rain itself, as though the rain had whispered a private joke meant only for him. Draft pressed his upper hand against the monitor. "Is he damaged?" he asked. "No neurological anomalies," I reported. "Then why is he smiling?" I checked the emotional scan twice before answering. "He appears to be enjoying himself." Draft turned slowly. "In the rain? Alone? With 3 coins?" "Yes." He lowered himself into his chair with unusual force. 11 minutes passed without speech. I counted them. When he finally spoke, his voice had changed. "I do not understand this species," he said, "and it is making me feel something." "What are you feeling?" I asked. He hesitated. Then, very quietly, "Inadequate." For accuracy, let me clarify something. My species is not emotionless. That myth was propagated by the Halvari, who possess enough emotional volume for an entire galaxy and resent the competition. We feel. We simply categorize. Grief, 14 days, then submit closure documentation. Joy, expressed through a single controlled nod. Awe, reserved for supernovae and mathematical perfection. There was no category for made to feel inadequate by a wet human with a stringed instrument. I searched the registry. There was no form. By day 14, our observation team had quietly stopped filing hourly reports. No formal discussion occurred. We were simply watching. Rovin, our youngest analyst, began keeping a personal log. That violated 3 regulations. I did not report him. I had started one as well. It was Rovin who flagged the moment that altered everything. We were observing a human named Sila, age 81. Location, hospital, Porto. All biological indicators confirmed imminent death. Her family surrounded her. Her daughter, Mara, gripped her hand so tightly the bedside monitors registered tremors. Her grandson, Teo, approximately 7 years of age, sat at the foot of the bed, very small, very still, watching his grandmother with enormous, unguarded eyes. Sila looked at him for a long time. Then she extended her free hand. Teo climbed beside her carefully. She leaned close and whispered something. Rovin replayed the audio 3 times, convinced of translation error. There was none. What Sila said, at the threshold of extinction, in a room saturated with antiseptic, grief, and something our sensors could not quantify, was this. Being here was the whole thing. Do not waste a single piece of it. Teo nodded, gravely, the way children nod when storing something sacred for later retrieval. Sila closed her eyes. Rovin turned toward us. His expression lacked official terminology. I will define it as this. The look of a researcher who has realized the subject of study has been observing him in return. Drath stood, walked to the center of the deck, looked at each of us. We came here to understand them. Silence. We have been here 22 days, he continued. And here is what I understand. They know it ends. They have always known it ends. And somehow, that is exactly why they refuse to stop. No one responded. On the monitor, the hospital room remained softly illuminated. Mara still held her mother's hand. Teo sat upright, already carrying something immense with the posture of someone prepared to carry it for a lifetime. "File the report," Drath said. I opened the classification form. Under species designation, I deleted observe and dismiss. Slowly, carefully, as one removes an error that should never have existed. I entered a new designation. Do not look away. Then I leaned back and watched. I thought of Mirasolin telling children that forever is kind of the point. I thought of Kale and his landlocked boat and 400 kilometers of stubborn belief. I thought of Bodo smiling at the rain. My species spent centuries attempting to understand eternity. These fragile creatures, with their soft bones, cracked jars, unfinished boats, and terminal diagnoses, had simply decided to inhabit it. We changed their label to red. Red means, pay attention. Red means, this one does not break the way others do. Red means, we were not prepared for this. Red means, we may never fully understand them, and we are watching anyway. We spent centuries trying to understand eternity. They simply chose to live as if it mattered.